just keeping an eye on the sky out the window, hopeful that we can get Alabama in here safely and get ready to go on Thursday. Really important stretch of games coming against teams that are in similar positions within standings and postseason hopes head to head. So always big games. Last week was a long week with 3 games in the week, 2 of them on the road. I think our kids are recovered and ready to go to practice today.
Ethan?
Coach, you talked a little bit about it just now, but this stretch of games with Ole Miss and Alabama, just a bunch of teams kind of jockeying in the same spot right now for that double bye in the SEC tournament down the road. Is that something you guys talk about as a team, or is it just kind of right now too early to talk about the double bye and everything?
I got a 10-page packet going to them today. I think you have to talk about it. I know some coaches just want to take it one game at a time and one day at a time. I don't think that's the way our group operates. Our group will know. We will talk about it. We'll put it in front of them, let them see the remaining schedule, everybody's record to this point, who everybody still has to play. I learned through COVID that the more information you have, the less frightened you are of things. So I'm going to flood them with information. Some kids will digest more of it than others. But I do believe that kids that are really bought into what we're doing, the more information, the better. So they understand the importance of every single game, but especially I think the ones when you're playing head-to-head against people that have similar positioning and aspirations as you do, which certainly our next 5 games have until we see Tennessee.
And then I know y'all just got done with that really tough stretch where you play a Monday, Thursday, Sunday. Now it's Alabama's turn this week they had LSU, then y'all, then they have South Carolina on Sunday. Just how important has it been, I guess, to relay to the team that they're probably going to be really hungry for a win against y'all this week with that schedule?
Didn't even need to relay it. They knew it. They were talking about it already. They had looked ahead and knew what it was. So I just joined in their conversation. They're like, hey, they're in the same boat we were. We know how hard it is. We know an environment that, LSU had when we got to LSU. We probably won't be able to recreate that due to the weather, but I do think our kids are very aware because we keep them aware, and then they do that on their own too. So, but Alabama, if you watch them on film, we played them a bunch the last few years. They've got a lot of returners, a lot of familiarity. There's a lot of similarity. If you watch them play and watch us play, I think we're number 1 and number 2 in 3-pointers made and attempted. We neither of us have overwhelming size, but we're all about equal. Great individual matchups, which usually lead to good team matchups.
And then last thing I have is, Brittany Davis, she's meant a lot to them this year, obviously kind of highlights their offense, but they have quite a few players who can lead them in scoring on any given night, kind of like y'all. Just what do you think of their balance and the different options that they have?
Well, Brittany plays maybe with the most freedom of anybody in our league. There's not a possession that if it ends with her taking a good shot, they're going to be happy with. Very aggressive. You can't tell, she'll let one go. She may have made her last 5 or missed her last 5. It's irrelevant. She is a attack mode every time she gets it. Then I think the other players around her, like you said, have had great matchup nights to where they highlight and become their leading scorer. Sarah Ashley Barker has given them a player kind of like our Sailor Poffenbarger. I mean, they look very similar when you watch them on film. Then you got a Hannah Barber type kid who just runs and does everything that they need to do. Their bigs around the basket are undersized a little bit like ours, play really hard, run the floor in transition, and then they put shooters around them. Nye, and I don't know if Abrams is back in and out. She's been in and out of the lineup a little bit, but they've got a lot of depth at that guard spot. You can't just prepare for one kid, but you do have to pay a little bit more attention to Davis because she can go off for a 35-point night on her if you don't make her miss.
Alyssa?
Hey, Mike. With playing LSU and Kentucky, what do you feel like you really learned about your team learned about themselves playing the top 2 teams in the league?
That if you don't rebound, nothing else matters, first and foremost. Those are the 2 hardest teams in the country right now to rebound against. And we didn't do a very good job in either one of those games of that. If we can shore that up, I think we learned that we can compete. We battled with LSU at their place. We battled with South Carolina for a quarter before we ran out of gas. But I do think we've learned that we can't just count on Aaron or Saylor to get 7 or 8 defensive rebounds each a game. We've got to have all 5 people crash that defensive glass. I think too, the challenges of losing these days, that you go on a 4-game win streak and, it's everybody's patting you on the back and you're getting 100 text messages after, Michaela's on days, Good Morning America and Sports Center. And then you lose one and you get to your phone, and there's no text messages. So you got to stick together as a team. I think we've done that. Now that we've been through it once, I think that leads us into another little stretch here where we can kind of recenter and refocus on these next 9 games. We'll break the 9 total up into a little bit of a pod, but just 9 games left until the SEC. And I want to make sure they understand right where we are and then where we can go.
And just in case we don't talk to you before Sunday, but I just feel like Ole Miss in the past, it's just always been a battle. And regardless of where those teams are, your team and the Ole Miss team, it feels like Ole Miss is either getting the better hand of you guys, whether it be in a tournament or something, or vice versa. So how do you prepare for that team?
They've gotten us the last 2 times. We've gotten them before that. It's, a rivalry only becomes a rivalry when both teams win at some. If you got one team dominating, it's not much of a rivalry. So we've been about 500 in our last 6 or 7 meetings. And also when you overlap in recruiting like we obviously do, there's some personal attachment to that game. And this will obviously have it. I mean, you didn't say it, but I will. I mean, they had 2 kids that were on our team last year, so that adds to that. We can't act like that's not there. It is there. Our kids still pull for those kids. We were on the bus the other night when Marquisha crossed a kid over and everybody, woo, Q, cheering for her. So that'll be there. And I think that's what makes it a rivalry is that we've both won in recent past. They've been good games. They've been competitive games, and they always have meant something. The first year when they beat us, we got into the NCAA tournament. And then last year, them beating us really helped them get into the NCAA tournament. So I'm glad that it's a battle now for maybe both of us going instead of just one of us. But it'll certainly have postseason feel for it Sunday, no question.
Thank you.
Got it.
Jordan.
Hey, Coach, with Sam being just a sophomore, the 2 transfers and Aaron's injury last year, your crew that plays heavy minutes hasn't gotten a chance to play a lot together too much. How do you feel their chemistry on and off the court has progressed since sort of day one?
The on-court's been pretty good since day one. The off-court is always the challenge because, new personalities, learning each other's triggers and each other's love languages and all. It takes time. But I think we're closer to getting there. I will tell you again, because we have purposely peaked, or not purposely, we haven't peaked at the right time in the past. And starting 2 weeks later, we're probably 2 weeks behind on that. We're still learning. We still get annoyed with each other. They get annoyed with me. I get annoyed with them. They get annoyed with each other. When you're on the road and you get travel issues and you have to stay an extra night, that just magnifies all that. So I'm not telling you we're a finished product because we're not, and we may never be. I'm not sure any teams are, but I will tell you we're learning. I've learned new things about each player that I can and can't say to get the best out of them. I think they've learned to talk to me. I think they're learning to talk to each other. But I want us to peak at the right time this year. And with that said, I don't think we're there yet. I really don't, but I think we make improvements toward there every single game.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have
Cool.
one more actually.
Go for it.
Yeah. So I mean, just something I noticed from those 2 losses, LSU and South Carolina, is it seemed like Erin wasn't afraid. She took it at Angel and Elite. She scored a couple times on them too. Just what have you seen from her as far as it seemed like she just kind of had a not gonna back down mentality.
Yeah, Aaron's never had that. That's never been any question with Aaron. It doesn't matter who you put out there. she's got supreme confidence that she can be an attack when we wanted to. We put her in space to go do that. And that's what she's so good at. We asked her to shoot a few more threes the last couple of games, which it's not what she does. She's certainly capable of that. It's something I think she's added. We needed to make a few more of those in those games. But Erin is fearless. Erin, y'all don't tell her that she's not 6'5" because she thinks she is. And don't tell her that. I mean, that's how she's survived in not only in life but on the court. Is just having supreme confidence in what she can do when it comes time. But yeah, and obviously the size factor against Cordoza and Boston and Angel Reese, you're talking about three of the best players in the country. So for her to do that against them, it gives us a lot of confidence, every other night out there that one of those kids in the lineup, no disrespect to Jada Rice at all, but it's different when you're talking about a kid who I think if she does come out in the draft, which we've all got our fingers crossed she does, I think Aaliyah Boston's got to be number 1, 2, or 3, depending on which team needs her the most.